Bonjour tout le monde. Aujourd'hui, on va parler du futur simple. This is a future tense. So let's start with what we know about how to speak in the future. And we actually know a different future tense called the futur proche. The futur proche is the near future. We form that by doing aller plus the infinitive. So, for example, je vais dormir, I'm going to sleep, or elle va danser, she's going to dance. The future we're learning about today is a little different. It's called the futur simple mainly because there's only one part to it. Alright, it's translated as will plus the verb. The stem is the infinitive, which is essentially how you would find the verb in the dictionary. Now, you're going to make sure if you are using an RE verb, you drop the E at the end because we need our stem to always end in the letter R. And the endings go like this: a, on, a, on. So it's kind of weird. This is like avoir over here, and then who knows what's happening on this side. Not too crazy though, but it kind of looks weird when you do it. So let's take a look at parler, to speak. Je parlerai, I will speak. Tu parleras, you will speak. Il parlera, he will speak. Nous parlerons, vous parlerez. Ils parleront. So you hear that R sound at the end, which is kind of strange. Now, there are some stem changing verbs and things we have to look out for when we conjugate the future simple. For example, double consonants. These verbs would normally double the consonant when you conjugate it in all forms except nous or vous. So you do have to double that consonant when you do the futur proche or futur simple. Je jetterai. Any kind of accent changes, you will see the accent change in your new stem, achèterai. And YER verbs, that Y changes to an I. So payerai, I will pay. Now, of course, you also had to realize we were going to run into some irregular stems. And there are plenty of them, so let's get moving. Aller becomes ir, IR. Avoir is or, AUR. Courir, to run, cours, 2 R's. Devoir, to have to should, to ought, is devre. Être becomes ser, probably one of the weirdest ones. Envoyer becomes envers, so this is not a Y to I, it's just totally irregular. Faire becomes faire, F-E-R. Notice they all end in R still, so that hasn't changed. Falloir, faudre, with an R. Pouvoir, pour. Going back to falloir, remember that only exists in the eel form. It is necessary. Recevoir, we've got recevre. Savoir, to know. Saur has avoir in its base here, you can see, so it has the same base as avoir in the future. Venir, viendre. This is probably the most commonly mistaken ones, I would say, with students. Voir is ver with 2 R's. And vouloir becomes voudre. So, these are stems. Unfortunately, you just have to memorize these irregular stems. Now, we started talking about the future proche, so let's sort of highlight some of the differences. Obviously, you've got your differences in formation. Future proche is a little more informal, whereas the future simple is a little formal. We use the future proche much more frequently when we speak. The future simple will be a little bit more often found in writing. The future proche is also, it's near future for a reason. It's because it's about, within the next 2 or 3 days is usually when we would use the future proche. Whereas the future simple is just a more distant future, maybe a couple years down the way. Oh yeah, when I'm older, stuff like that. We use it for general truths as well. For example, if you work hard, you will succeed, something like that. And the future proche is a little more certain because we are talking about, in the next few moments, for example, or, when I get home, I'm going to take a nap, something like that. Whereas these future simple has a little less certainty, like when I'm 55, I will live in Florida. Well, it's a little hard to know whether that is true or not. So here are some examples. We've got déménagera, he will move. Tu décideras, you will decide. Je partirai, I will leave. Elles iront, there's already an irregular stem, they will go. Nous étudierons, we will study. Take your time when you say it. Il vous aidera, which means he will help you. So that's the basic formation and some examples. The complicated part sort of comes in when we talk about when we use it. And one of the many very common situations we'll use it is with a C clause. Now, C means if. So, for example, we have this condition. If something in the present, then the result we're going to use is going to be in the future. So, for example, s'il fait beau, if it's beautiful, j'irai à la plage. I will go to the beach. Or, si nous achetons une caravane, nous ferons du camping. If we buy a camping car, trailer, we will go camping. So, it's C plus the present, and then followed by the future is the result. Now, we're also going to use it sometimes with words, the word quand, which means when, and we're talking about something in the future. Other words that are going to use the future, après que, aussitôt que, dès que, lorsque is just a fancy way to say quand, and espérer que. So, now in this situation, notice we have two verbs in the future. When it will be beautiful, essentially. When it's beautiful, j'irai à la plage. I will go to the beach. So these are two events in the future. When I say quand il fera beau, I'm basically implying, look, it's not nice right now. The weather is not nice. But when it is in the future, then I will go. Quand nous aurons une caravane, nous ferons du camping. When we have a camping car, again, in the future, when we have it, we will go camping. So it's slightly different in French from the tenses that we would use in English. You have to look out for that. All right, here's your job. Finish the sentence with the futur simple. S'il pleut ce week-end, if it rains this weekend. Si je gagne à la loterie, if I win the lottery. Quand madame donnera les devoirs, when madame gives homework, because she will. Quand je rentre à la maison, when I go back home, what will you do? Do some futur simple, and we'll talk about them demain. Au revoir.